Host Brandon speaking to Jay Crawford. Jay Crawford explains the Skip Bayless and Jalen Rose blow up. Before we check out the video, I want to thank Awful Sports and Brandon for this video. Please smash the like button. Now let's listen and let me know what you think about what Jay Crawford says.
Did it seem like, did other people like working with them? Because like I also think after the Skip and Shannon relationship started to deteriorate earlier this year, there were a lot of kind of narratives out there that nobody wants to work with Skip, and everybody seemed more interested in going to First Take and working with Stephen A. At least while you were there, did other people enjoy being on the show with them?
Yeah, I don't think anybody. Now, I remember Jalen Rose had a problem with Skip, and then ultimately Skip with Jalen over the Water Pistol Pete comment. You know, this was toward the end, and at this point, I had already decided that my days here have got to be short, or I'm going to quit the business. Like, I've got to find something else within ESPN. So I was already there, and I knew it was just a matter of weeks before I went to SportsCenter. But I do remember the show where, just in the context of having a conversation, Skip had mentioned to Jalen, "What have you won? You know, you and I have won the same number of NBA championships," or something along those lines. And I never like it when Skip would do that. And he did do that with a number of guys. The other guy that I remember he did that with that rubbed the wrong way was Chris Carter. Like, okay, don't tell a Hall of Famer like Chris Carter, you know, you never won anything.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, there's certain things you can't say to an alpha male that has deserved all of our respect. And Chris used to hate it when he would do that. And I know Jalen wasn't in love with it. And this particular day when he brought it up, Jalen had enough. And he just said, "Skip, is it true that you averaged 1.2 points a game your senior year in high school?" Or maybe it was 2.1. I can't remember. And Skip was thunderstruck. And I was thunderstruck. I was just like, what's happening here? And Skip said, yeah, it is. But there's a reason for that. And so he started going into this story about how the coach's son also was the point guard. And, you know, here we are now. No, we're discussing in front of a very large audience Skip Bayless' senior year in high school. Like, yeah, I knew that was only going to end poorly. I knew it. And so then he said, your idol was Pistol Pete. Well, you're Water Pistol Pete. And you could hear the voices in the control room go, uh-oh. And everybody in the studio got quiet. And I was in the middle of it. And I tried to graciously get us out of it and get us to a commercial break. But when we got there, it was ice in the studio. Like, it was not a good scene. And we came to work the next day. I had some conversations with Jalen after the show. I had some conversations with Skip after the show. I'm trying to be the peacemaker. And I thought we were in a good place. And then I found out that this thing was about to go to a whole new level. I came in the next morning, and I'd mentioned Jamie, who was our CP at the time.
Yeah.
And it had just recently taken over the show. He loved Skip. He was all in on Skip. He's at the morning meeting, and he tells us, so we're going to start the show today with an uninterrupted monologue from Skip. I'm not making this up. Explaining why he only averaged, 2.1 points a game in high school. And Jalen was there. Jalen was going to be there, and we were going to, and I said immediately, we're not doing this. Like, there's no way we're going to do this. And I was told, oh no, we're doing this. This is so important to Skip that we don't know if he's going to do the show today if we don't do this. So I understand Skip wanted to defend what was now his record as I'm sure he never thought he'd be in a position to do that. And here's Jalen, a guy who, was part of the Fab Five, had a nice professional career. And he's involved with this show now where one of the hosts is going to explain why he only averaged 1.2 points a game. It got out of control. I've never talked to Skip about it. I don't know how he feels about it today. He doesn't change his mind, so he's probably just as adamant that was the right thing to do in that moment. But then came word that Skip was never Jalen was never allowed to do another first take ever again. Like it was, he was a banned guest. He was banished. And at that time, Skip had that kind of power on first take because, again, the show was taken to heights we had never reached. And Skip was the guy that took us there. No question about it. And so I don't know that Skip ever gave that edict. It was just what producers on the show were telling me. Jalen's been on the show for the last time. Obviously, Jalen's role at ESPN would only get bigger over time. He ended up being part of the NBA coverage and all of that. And for a time, he had a very big role at ESPN. So, but I do know that the relationship between Skip and Jalen was fractured. But in general, I got to say, Skip is one of the most likable guys in real life that you would ever want to meet. He's soft-spoken. He's thoughtful. He's considerate. He cares about his coworkers and friends. Every year, I knew I was going to get a shipment of something to my house for Christmas. He never let me down. He always came through with something. And in general, I think that Skip is well-liked by his coworkers. That was my experience with him. I never had an ill word with Skip during our 9 years plus together. And you would think that when you work that closely with someone for that long, at some point. Now, I was getting a little tired of the Tim Tebow show, and that was, all a product of Skip. And ultimately, that's why I said I had to get out. But, I never resented Skip for that. It never affected our personal relationship. And again, the Skip Bayless you see on TV is completely different from Skip Bayless in real life. Quiet, kind, thoughtful, considerate, a good guy, a really good guy.
Wow. First, let me say Jay wanted out. He realized this is not the type of debate show he wanted to be a part of anymore. Now let's get to Skippy the Skip. He just loves to take personal shots at people. So the man who takes pop shots at people sometimes gets popped, and he bars Jalen from his show. Say it ain't so, Skip. So after Jalen Rose lit him up by calling him Water Pistol Pete Jr. because Skip only averaging 1.4 points per game in high school and playing JV ball as a junior. Then what's crazy is the next day, Jay is told that Skip has to give a monologue about why he only averaged minimum points per game. Remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, and please come back.